Man, I don't know what that meant. I'm not sure eternity. I still don't understand. Anyway, and then this other guy ran into, he had one on, and he goes, I had this elbow, I couldn't even move my arm, and I wore this, and now the thing works perfectly and all that. But anyway, there's no claims about any of that stuff. If you see the testing, it does give you better balance and agility and those kinds of things. But I think it goes back to belief again. And I think when we look at our own lives, when we look at this business, it's really the thing that moves it forward is our belief. It's our belief in first ourselves and secondly the business really, if you think about it. Because you know what's going to grow your business, and as I look at Beachbody right now, we're talking about a little bit last night, I just spoke for a little bit last night, but the company right now is like gone crazy. I mean, since Dallas, when were we in Dallas? Last month? Okay, in Dallas they rolled out the Wave sign-up. We've signed up 10,000 people. Since every time I go in the office, there's 400 a day, something like that. So the business is just on this upward climb. Their goal by January is to have 50,000 coaches. When I got started working with Christine Dwyer back in August of 2009, I think there was like 20,000 coaches or something like that. So we see what's going on with the growth of the company, and a lot of that is people like you, that you're out sharing this business with people, you're out talking to people. And when I saw the network marketing business in 1979 was when I looked at Amway. That was the business I looked at in 79. And you know, I mean, the Amway business, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't understand it. I knew nothing about network marketing. I always felt like someday I was going to do something with my life and be significant and build something big. And I always dreamed about being a multi-millionaire since I was like, I remember like 8, 9 years old. I said, I'm going to be wealthy someday. You know, I remember seeing the Amway business. I went to my mom and said, Mom, I found it. I'm going to be a multi-millionaire. You know what she said? She said, son, there's never been millionaires in our family. And I thought, well, God forbid, Mom, let's not screw that family through. We messed everything up because then we'd have to look back at the history and we'd all just be failing forever. You know, she kind of said that because she didn't want me to get hurt. She didn't want me to feel bad. You know, I think sometimes our parents, and sometimes maybe we're that way with people, is we like take dreams away because we don't want them to be discouraged and we don't want them to think, no, don't think that big because, you know, I don't want you to be disappointed. Well, I say, think that big and don't be disappointed. Okay? Think that big and don't be disappointed. So a lot of this business is our belief. So in '79, I looked at the Amway business, and this friend of mine came and showed it to me. And like I said, I didn't know much about it. I had this background where I was this obese child. I was 180 pounds in the 6th grade. I was 4'11", and my nickname's Tubby. And if all my friends from high school, if you met them now today and we were hanging out, they'd all call me Tubby. That was my name all through high school. And even though I lost a lot of weight, that was my nickname. And you know what? I had this crazy family. My dad left when I was 7, and you know, I never ever saw him again. Really, he was pretty much out of my life. And although I did welcome him back in my life about 7 years ago, and he stole $250,000 from me, so that was kind of a fun experience. So we bonded through that whole thing, the love thing. But anyway, you know, forget that. But anyway, so. You know, my mom was an alcoholic, so she drank, you know, for 30 years, and it was sad. And she married men that were total losers because that's how she thought she was. And so anyway, so I kind of grew up with that. But you know what? I always knew that I was different. And you know, Ali talked about the DNA, right? The determined natural ambition. You're born with that. You know, some of you in a family, and you're different than everybody in your family. You have brothers and sisters, and you're different than all of them. My brothers, I got 4 brothers, and I love them all. You know, we grew up in a 1-bedroom home. We all slept. We had one big bed, and me and all 5 of us slept in that bed, and we were broke and poor. And I loved my brothers, but none of them had the DNA on them. And they're just different than me. You know, one works for the city of Medford in Southern Oregon, the other one's a carpenter. They're happy, you know, just kind of being broke and average in their lives, and I love them with all my heart. They've raised great kids, and they're super guys. They just don't really want much more out of life. They don't see their life much greater than that. And you know what? That's fine. But see, we're all different. But if you are that person like I was, you know, the kid who's 180 pounds sitting in a closet, depressed about his life, kind of wondering, what am I doing here? And then some kind of voice in you, someday you're going to do something significant, and you're hearing this voice, and you're going, where's that coming from? You know, it's not like God opening the closet, screaming lights at you and saying something. It was just you knew. You just knew that you were different. And some of you understand that. Some of you, you know, when I speak to audiences like this, I see head shaking. That's me. That was me. That's me growing up. I always knew that was that kind of person. Well, you have the DNA. You have it. It's inside of you. And you know, the one thing I've learned is that, you know, that struggle is a lot less painful than regret. Struggle in life is a lot less painful than regret. And most of us that have that DNA, and we go through our life with it, if we don't accomplish and do what we know inside every day we can do, then we live life of regret when we're 50, 60, 70 years old. We talk about like the song inside of you, right? This song that's inside you that needs to be sung, that you know your life's journey. And even though a lot of us, we have this past that isn't the best in the world, and things happen to us, and all those, I call them hand-me-downs, right? They're the hand-me-down things that were given to you that you didn't want. Like we didn't pick our parents, right? We didn't pick who raised us. We didn't pick where we were born. We didn't pick the lifestyle we had. But that's what was handed down to us. But the thing is that I learned for me, I could change that. I could make the difference. I could make that change in my life. And so for a lot of us, we go through, even when we get in this business, we get exposed because we're sitting there and someone like me is saying to you, you can do great things with your life. And then on the other shoulder is this little voice saying, who's he kidding? What about you? You've never been able to do much with your life. You've been average all your life. You've never accomplished that much. Look where you've come from. And you have this constant battle back and forth of, yes, I can, no, I can't, yes, I can, no, I can't. Right? But for me, I knew if I didn't change things, a guy said to me once, and some of you men will relate to this, especially if you have kids, he looked me in the eye and said, if it's not better for your children than it was for you, you failed. And man, that was like a slap in my face. It was like, if it's not better for you than your children, then you failed. And I realized for me, if I didn't change some things in my life from the past I had, then I would have passed that on to my kids. Right? And I look at my kids now, and I'm so blessed by my children. My one son is a professional athlete, but he started his own company. My daughter is actually, her name's Kendall. She's the event planner for Powder Blue. She runs all the Shanice events. She lives in LA, having a great life. But they're all dreamers. My son quit college after 2 years. My youngest guy said, I want to be an actor, because he was when he was younger. He said, go after it. Go after it. You're a dreamer. Go do it. You want to look back at 50 and say, I wish I would have been an actor. Just go do it. And he's broke right now, and he's struggling. Right? And that's good. That's a good thing. I could give him money, but I don't, because he wants to struggle, because that's part of it. And I say that because, see, you pass on these things to your children. When you're a dreamer, and there's things that you do with your life, and you're a free enterpriser, and you're a person that believes in owning your own business, it gets passed on to your kids. The self-esteem, that whole thing. And so for me, one of the greatest things of being able to, break the curse of my past and all these bad things that happened to me was I could bless the next generation instead of them following my past generation. And that's a lot of what you do. We see a bigger picture in this business that's really here for us. It's not just about selling product and getting in shape. It's about changing your life and changing the life of your own children and the next generation and giving them dreams and hopes. And I have the greatest picture of my son. From the time he was 5, he wanted to be a New York Yankee. That was his dream. At 5 years old, Dad wanted to be on the Yankees. And how kids say that. They all say, I'm going to be a baseball player. I didn't know how good he was or whether he was that talented. But I said, you can do that. You can do that. I'm going to be a Yankee. So we bought him. I remember he was 5. We bought his little Yankee uniform. They have the miniature size, and he's wearing it around. He never took his hat off. Never took it. I'm going to be a Yankey. I'm going to be a Yankee. And the greatest part is I have this, at home in my office, I have a picture of him, and I had it enlarged of him at 5 in that Yankee uniform. And then next to it, I had enlarged his baseball card when he got drafted by the Yankees in 2007. And they're right next to each other. And when people come to my office, they go, whoa. I said, that's what dreams do. When you're a dreamer and you believe something, and he was talented, but he worked harder than everybody else because he had the DNA. He has that DNA. He has to get it done. And a lot of you sitting here today, what frustrates us when we get in a business like this is because when you have DNA and you have excuses for why you haven't accomplished things, it's okay. It works. Right? Well, I've tried. I've just done a job. I've tried my best to advance. I got the DNA. I want to do great things. But then all of a sudden somebody comes along and gives you a business and says, here, this is your company. You own it. How big do you want to be? How big can you dream? What do you want to do with your life? How much money do you want to make? And there's nothing stopping you now. And now you've got this road. Anybody ever driven in Europe where there's no speed limit? That's a sweet thing. And then you're going down you're like Turbo Ferrera, just 190 miles an hour going. If I get a flat tire, I'm dead, but this is cool. But in this business, so all of a sudden somebody's like, they put you on this road, there's no stop sign, there's no slowdowns, your foot's on the pedal, and now what are you going to do with your life? And that can be threatening to us, because if there's no limit on what you can do, now it's up to me, right? Now it goes back to my face. It goes back to the person in my seat. What am I going to do with my life? And then we start dealing with these hand-me-downs and things from the past and things that hold us back. And I guess I want to just encourage you today, as we spend time together, I just want to encourage you to start thinking bigger than you've ever thought. If you knew you couldn't fail, how big would you dream? If you knew your life if you knew you couldn't fail, how big would you really be willing to dream? And for people with that DNA, you've been that way in your life. You don't even tell people about your dreams sometimes, because you think, if they hear me say this, they're going to put me in some wacko home or something. Because this is a wild dream. Well, you know what? Here's one of the things I find as I talk to coaches like you guys around the country, is people apologize for our dreams. You know, when people start making fun of us, say, oh, well, you know, I know, it's kind of great. Don't ever apologize, number one. And number two, don't ever try to convince somebody about it because it's none of their business. We always want to go out and, you know, try to explain to people how we're going to do these things. And then, you know, the people without DNA, they're like, you might as well be speaking Chinese, and you're an English-speaking person, because they don't understand what you're saying. And yet we spend all this time trying to convince someone of our dream, or what we're going to do, or what we can do. And we get exhausted doing it. We get frustrated. And for me, I got to be honest with you, for me, part of it was my own family. I'm trying. How many of you tried to share this business? Unbelievable encouragement from your family. That's an awesome thing. Most of the time, you don't get that. I didn't get it. It's like, oh, come on, dude. Yeah, well, we'll see how long you last. You know, all the fun stuff. And for me, I guess I'm just competitive enough that just encouraged me to finish. Because I wasn't going to face him. Because when I showed my business to people, I knew once I showed them that if I ever quit, I had to leave the country. Because I was going to see him around the city. And I was going to see him around. You know, it's like every time they saw me, they'd say, you still in that thing? You know, it's like you have a cold. Are you over it yet? I mean, that's kind of the way they treat me. Like, you're still in that thing? Like you know, you have leprosy? Is it over? Have you gone to the doctor? Did you get antibiotics? Are you better now? No, I'm building this business. It's going to be my life. What I showed you, I'm serious about. Oh, yeah, right, okay. So, you know, for us, though, then we go and try to convince them. Oh, yeah, and don't try to convince the wrong people. We spend time trying to convince the wrong people. When you show this plan, you can show the wrong plan to the right people, and they're getting in. You can show the right plan to the wrong people, they ain't getting in. They're not going to build a business, no matter how much you try to convince them, no matter how many times you go back to them, no matter what you can say to them. Some of us, we think we're good enough that we can take the wrong people and get them in this business. And sometimes you do, and guess what they do? They waste your time. You know, and you're out there trying to push a noodle. Right? You ever tried pushing a noodle? Try it sometimes. Stick it on the counter and start pushing it. You know, the only way you're going to move a noodle, you got to go in front and pull the noodle. Okay? A bunch of you are pushing noodles. Right? And these are people that don't have the DNA in them. They're not that they're not good people. So you got to separate that out. It's not that they're not good people. They're good people. They're good people on Shakeology. They're good customers. They're not builders. Right? If they're not builders, then we leave them alone. And we let them just live their life and create volume and be excited about whatever they're doing. But go find people that are the willing. Go find, like Larry talked about, the willing, right? Go find those. And then when you do, you don't have to beg them. You don't have to try to convince them. You don't have to explain your dream to them. You don't have to apologize for anything. And some of you in this room are those people. Right? Some of you in this room are those people.